Welcome to 5 Good Minutes, considering the season of Advent with Jonathan Thede.
Welcome to 5 Good Minutes. This week we have been taking some time to talk about John chapter 1, the prologue of John's gospel, basically the introduction of his gospel. It's a time where John sets aside all the story and he gives us a high-level overview of who Jesus is and what he came to do. Today I want to wrap up by talking about this idea of preparation. We hear this theme all the time. It's actually in one of the most famous Christmas hymns. It talks about prepare him room. What does this mean? What does it mean to prepare for Jesus? What does it mean to make room for him? Well, to introduce this idea, I want to talk about having people over for Christmas. As you're listening to this, you're probably busy. You're probably getting ready for people coming over, maybe staying over a few nights, maybe family out of town, maybe family that's local. But anytime you have family over, you prepare. You cook, you clean, you get rooms ready, you break out toys for young children. Why do we do this? Why do we work so hard? Why do we stress over preparing for family? Well, it's simply because we prepare for things that we have expectations for. If we know that family's coming over, we need to prepare to have them. And in the same way, if we expect God to teach us something this Christmas season, it follows logically that we have to prepare for it. We need to prepare our hearts to receive Jesus this Christmas season. And so a quick overview, we're going to see, as we've done each day this week, we're going to see where we see this idea in Scripture. Secondly, we're going to talk about what it means. And finally, why it matters. So first, where do we see this in John chapter 1, this idea that we need to prepare him room? We see it in verses 19 through 23. And you'll have to forgive me, this is a bit of a longer passage. Starting in verse 19, John writes, "Now this was John's testimony when the Jewish leaders in Jerusalem sent priests and Levites to ask him who he was. He did not fail to confess, but confessed freely, 'I am not the Messiah.' They asked him, 'Then who are you? Are you Elijah?' He said, 'I am not.' 'Are you the prophet?' He answered, 'No.' Finally they said, 'Who are you? Give us an answer to take back to those who sent us. What do you say about yourself?' John replied in the words of Isaiah the prophet, 'I am the voice of one calling in the wilderness. Make straight the way for the Lord.'" Well, a few things as we begin. Just a reminder that we talked about a couple of days ago. This is John the Baptist denying that he is the hero of the story. He's reminding us of what we saw in the prologue in verses 1 through 18, that John was merely the witness, the testifying about the light who was coming into the world. And so this is really where our story begins in verse 19. Verses 1 through 18, we have basically the introduction, the prologue. But in verse 19, we introduce the story. And it begins with John the Baptist re-emphasizing that he isn't the light, but that he testifies about the light. It means that John was preparing for the coming of Jesus. And it's not just he was preparing, but he was trying to prepare everyone for the coming of Jesus. Secondly, why does this matter? Why does it matter that John prepared for the coming of Jesus? Because it reminds us of the posture that we need to have this Christmas season. We need to prepare for Christmas in our hearts. We need to expect God to teach us, to remind us of the gospel this Christmas season. And so we need to prepare. I think a very relevant question to this conversation is, how do we do this? This seems like flowery language. It's kind of hard to get your arms around. So how do we do it? I'm going to give you 3 questions to ask yourself relating to the heart, the head, and the will. First comes the heart. I want you to ask yourself in the quiet of your car or of your house, what is my attitude toward the person of Jesus? Do I love Jesus or do I resent him? When you think about Jesus this Christmas season, do you think of someone who loves you? Do you think of someone who came to earth to die on your behalf, to give you new life? Second question is about the head. Do I believe that Jesus is who he said he was? Have I believed that Jesus is Lord, and am I committed to submitting my will to his? And the third question we have is about the will. I want you to ask yourself, is there any area of your life that you are withholding from Jesus? Is there any area of your life that you are not submitting to his rule? Well, Christmas is all about Jesus, and I hope and pray that this past week has been as well. As we conclude this passage of John chapter 1, let's prepare and make room for Jesus this Christmas season.
Thanks for joining us here today. There's a lot of great content to explore on Orchard Hill Plus and on the Orchard Hill main feed from the weekend. Have a great day.